Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Finlay. I am the CEO of Middleburg Communities. We are a fully integrated real estate investment firm that's focused on rental housing, predominantly in the southeastern United States. We've been in business for over 20 years now, focused on rental housing and in these markets. We're fully integrated, meaning that we have everything from dedicated in-house research, land acquisitions, development, construction, property management. We currently are one of the larger and more active developers and builders of apartments and BTR units in the country. We have almost 5,000 units under construction. It started over 3,000 units last year, and on track to surpass those numbers this year. So that's a pretty big question, because I think that's one of the things that's really becoming more well defined. There's been a lot of discussion about BTR, SFR, multifamily. I think a lot of people are combining both BTR and SFR as one kind of sub asset class within rental housing. I actually think that's not accurate. As we all know, what we talk about as BTR or SFR really emerged out of the last significant downturn, the great financial crisis. And that was really a function of institutional buyers buying single family homes out of foreclosure and renting them. And now that has kind of grown into this new sub asset class. But there's a lot of differentiation within the SFR BTR space. When you think about it, BTR means build to rent. It is purpose-built, purposely designed for rentals. And so it's focused on things like affordability, consumer needs, to be operated as a rental property, so leasing, maintenance. And so that's a little bit different than your traditional or historical single-family rental, even whether it's scattered site or even single-family rentals in terms of larger master use master plan communities that have rent, like a segment that is, or a section that is rented. This is really more what we think of as purpose built for rentals. So in some ways there's more similarity to multifamily than there is to a scattered site single family rental portfolio, or even a single family rentals that the home builders and folks like that are doing. Sure. So I think two things to point out. One is housing across the United States is still undersupplied. There are some temporary imbalances because of the amount of new construction in certain markets, but what we're seeing actually today is some rent growth picking up in markets that are, that have historically over the last couple of years had a lot of new deliveries. But overall, we think housing is undersupplied in America. But to answer your question more directly, what I think is interesting is our BTR, being a differentiated product, is actually performing well in those markets with temporary kind of oversupply or new deliveries. And it really is, it is kind of a different product. To think about in general, half of all kind of rentals are single family anyway. So, when a renter is looking for housing, they're, traditionally they've either said, okay, I need single family, so I'm going to go rent a house somewhere, or they want multifamily for affordability, access to employment, community amenities, whatever. I think what's interesting is single family rentals have been a large part of the overall rental housing option over time. I think what's happened that is an improvement is this purpose-built rental housing is actually more responsive to what renters really want. I think there's a few interesting demographic shifts that people don't really think about. One is Uh, the average age of a first-time home buyer is 38 years old now. People are getting the average age for marriage is 30. Having a first child is almost the same. It's really fascinating to me how demographics have shifted. The other thing is there's a lot more mobility today than there was even 20 or 30 years ago. So there is just purely from a lifestyle choice standpoint, people are renting longer. But people are also making more money during that period and want a different product. So they want the benefits of a single family house, right? They want their own front door. They want to have a little. They want the extra space. They want to be able to have private space for a grill or to have their dog, whatever. But they also want all the support and the ease of renting. And I think that's what really differentiates the BTR, the actual purpose-built rental communities, single family rental communities from both multifamily and the actual more traditional single family product. And it's really continuing to demonstrate that. And we see that in markets that have had a lot of new deliveries. The BTR product in that differentiation is really showing itself. So we're continuing to see tremendous absorption and strong rents relative to multifamily in those similar markets and submarkets. This is kind of a big question. Obviously, our country has a philosophy that encourages home ownership, this idea of wealth creation, and I think at one point in history that might have been the case, that it was a great savings model, if you will. What I find interesting is this. It's historically and particularly coming out of like World War II, and veterans would come home, got a VA loan, got a job, had the same job for 40 years. They retired, never moved, stayed in the same house, paid the loan off, and so they retire and they have this kind of forced savings plan, and and that just doesn't happen today, right? So nobody stays in the same place for 40 years anymore. They're not staying in the same house. People want to be able to take advantage of opportunities for career growth by moving to different markets and being able to climb that ladder, if you will. So this idea that this is a wealth creator, I think, is a bit misdirected. The other thing is, if you look at the amount of home price appreciation over the last 50 years, it always reverts to kind of the inflation rate. So the idea that you're getting some sort of outsized returns by owning a home is a mistake. The other thing is, the cost of home ownership relative to renting is almost double the cost of renting today. So from an affordability standpoint, it's not really comparable. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to be disciplined enough to take that other amount and actually invest it and be able to build their returns. But it is interesting that from an investment perspective, home ownership doesn't really stack up today. And so that's been a difference. So I think people are starting to recognize that. I think that is changing. If you think about young people considering buying a house, it's not that far long ago that they saw what happened in the great financial crisis. They've seen challenges of the volatility of underlying home markets. The average home mortgage today that's in place is just under 4%. New mortgages are almost 7% today. They're looking at do I buy? It's just not that attractive today. So what we're seeing people that are staying as renters for longer, but as they get older, as they want more space, the apartments don't work anymore, but they still want the same services and support. They want the easy lifestyle of having all of the maintenance, et cetera, that is afforded in a BTR community that is not available in a kind of a single owner operator of a random house in a community, and they need more space than just being in an apartment. So it's interesting to see how those shifts are taking place for sure. So I'm very bullish on BTR. I think the challenge with BTR is that it's hard to produce. It's a challenging product type to get entitled, to get designed, to get permitted, to get built, and to operate. It's more challenging than multifamily. So the default for many people is to simply do the multifamily because it's easier. Having said that, it is a superior kind of rental product, and assuming, of course, that you stay within the confines of affordability, appropriate locations. I have this saying that people drive to own, they don't drive to rent, and I say it all the time. And the concept is, and look, the data clearly shows this, that people are willing to drive a lot farther to buy their first house than they are to rent a property. And so whether it's a BTR or multifamily, there's really no difference. You have to stay within those same kind of locational confines to employment nodes to really leverage growth in an area. And so, as long as you're staying within those areas, we think that there's a tremendous amount of continued demand. The more we see it, more people are looking for it, the more they want it, and it's still in its infancy. So we from an investment perspective, we're very bullish. I wish I could produce more of it faster, to be honest with you. That's really the biggest holdup for us today.